Hello everyone, welcome back to today's story. In this episode, we'll follow Tuna as she quietly discovers that she's pregnant with Alex's child, just before their wedding day. Instead of telling him right away, she decides to wait for the perfect moment, carrying her secret while balancing life on the farm, the busy market, and their wedding preparations. Stay with us until the end to see how Tuna navigates this tender and emotional time. And if you enjoy heartfelt stories like this, don't forget to hit subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support means the world to us. A soft drizzle lingered over the red dirt road that wound into the village, turning the familiar path into a ribbon of glistening clay. The morning air smelled of damp earth and young crops, a reminder that life, no matter how heavy with worry, continued to grow. Lytuna walked carefully, her sandals squelching in the mud, her woven basket tucked firmly under her arm. To anyone passing by, she looked like any other young woman making her way to the fields. But beneath her calm expression lay a secret, one she had not yet found the courage to share, not even with Alex. Only yesterday, she had pressed her trembling fingers against the small test strip, her breath caught in her chest as the lines appeared. Pregnant. The word pulsed in her mind like a drumbeat, both terrifying and exhilarating. Alex, her soon-to-be husband, knew nothing yet. She wanted the moment she told him to be special, a memory they could hold on to forever. But until then, she would carry this truth silently, tucked away like a fragile sprout still hidden beneath the soil. As the drizzle faded, Tuna reached for her old straw hat, pulling it low over her brow, and tightened the strap on her boots. The pumpkin patch stretched before her, vines weaving into a thick carpet of green. Orange globes peeked out between the leaves, shining with raindrops, like small lanterns waiting to be gathered. She crouched down, her hands brushing against one of the heavier pumpkins. Immediately, she felt the strain in her back, a reminder that her body was already changing. "I can't carry heavy things anymore," she murmured under her breath. Her palm instinctively brushed her belly, though there was little to see yet. The thought made her smile faintly, even as her eyes clouded with worry. Still, she persisted, gently twisting the pumpkin from its vine and placing it carefully into her basket. Each one she chose was more than food or income. It was a step toward the life she imagined for the tiny heartbeat inside her. The future was uncertain, but the hope growing within her gave each task a new kind of meaning. The path led her to Ms. Kia's house, a humble home where an old wooden scale sat beneath the eaves. The older woman welcomed her with a knowing smile, as though she could sense the shift in Tuna's spirit. Tuna placed 2 pumpkins on the scale, wiping the sweat from her brow despite the cool drizzle. 13 kilos, Ms. Kia announced, her voice warm. "That'll be 130,000. Tuna nodded, reaching for the money she had saved, her fingers brushing against the coins with care. She handed them over, her chest easing as though completing the trade gave her a small anchor. Every transaction, no matter how modest, felt like building a brick in the foundation of her child's future. With her pumpkin sold, she made her way toward the market square. The air shifted as she entered, filled with the shouts of vendors calling out prices and the fragrance of fresh herbs, grilled corn, and leafy greens. Her stall was modest, a simple wooden table where she arranged her pumpkins in neat rows. Their bright skins drew a few admiring glances, and soon a woman paused, inspecting one closely. "They're beautiful," the customer remarked. Tuna smiled, though her body ached from the morning's labor. "They were grown with care," she said softly, her words carrying a double meaning she didn't dare reveal. The woman purchased a pumpkin, slipping coins into Tuna's hand. As the weight of the produce lightened, a different kind of weight settled deeper inside her. The question of how she would manage market days once her baby arrived. Could she keep carrying baskets, setting up stalls, smiling through exhaustion? The sky overhead turned gray, mirroring her unease. But when another buyer stopped to admire her produce, she straightened her shoulders. Each coin she earned became a promise to herself she would find a way. By the time she packed up, the drizzle had returned, soft but steady. Her boots left muddy prints along the path home, her basket lighter, but her heart heavier with thoughts of what was to come. Yet, woven through her fatigue was a quiet strength, the knowledge that every storm eventually passed, just as rain gave way to sunlight. Later that afternoon, Tuna and Alex stepped into a brightly lit store in town. Rows of children's clothes hung neatly, each tiny shirt and soft pair of shoes like a dream made real. The sight of them tugged at Tuna's heart, though she kept her secret buried. "What do you need for a baby boy?" the shop clerk asked cheerfully, her hands folded over the counter. Tuna hesitated, her fingers brushing a blue outfit decorated with tiny stars. Her heart raced, a mixture of excitement and fear. It was her first time facing the reality of motherhood, and everything felt unfamiliar, like stepping into a world she hadn't yet learned to navigate. Alex, unaware of the truth, stood beside her. He pointed to an outfit with steady confidence. "This one looks nice. Let's get it," he said, his tone casual but reassuring. His calmness steadied her own uncertainty. They moved through the store together, choosing soft diapers, bottles, towels, and tiny pairs of socks. Each item made her pulse quicken, because she wasn't just pretending anymore. These weren't just objects. They were pieces of the future she carried inside her. When the clerk finished packing their purchases, she added small gifts, bibs and wipes, thoughtful tokens for new parents. Tuna counted the cost. $3,090,000. Her throat tightened as she turned to Alex. "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't know what to do," she admitted quietly, her voice trembling. Alex smiled, brushing off her gratitude with a simple shake of his head, as though it was nothing. But to Tuna, it was everything. She held the bag close, not just feeling its weight, but the weight of her secret, her gratitude, and her hope. Outside, the rain began to fall again, but in her chest, a quiet glow spread. As they left the shop, Alex held the bag against his chest, shielding it from the drizzle. His figure was steady, his presence a comfort she could lean on. The world outside bustled with honking motorbikes and the chatter of passers-by. But between them, there was a stillness, a fragile peace. Tuna glanced at Alex's profile, wondering how his expression might change when she finally told him. Would his calm turn into surprise, joy, or perhaps fear? The moment lingered on her lips, but she swallowed it down, waiting for the right time. For now, she would keep walking beside him, her secret nestled close, her steps steady against the rain-slicked pavement. Back at the farm, the storm had strengthened, raindrops drumming against the tin roof in a steady rhythm. Alex set the bag on the table, carefully checking through its contents. "Make sure everything's here," he said gently. Tuna opened the bag, her fingers brushing over a tiny shirt, her throat thickening with emotion. "It's perfect," she whispered. Her eyes stung with tears, but she blinked them back. Alex smiled faintly, pulling his jacket tighter before heading back out into the rain. "I'll grab something from the car. Don't get wet," he called over his shoulder. Tuna stood under the eaves, watching his figure blur through the curtain of rain. Her chest ached with warmth, with gratitude, with the knowledge that Alex was already a shelter in her life. She clutched the bag of baby supplies closer, her secret pressing more urgently than ever. She hadn't told him yet, but soon, when the moment was right, she would. The storm eased overnight, leaving the earth drenched and fragrant. By morning, the farm looked refreshed, each leaf glistening with drops of silver. Tuna stood at the doorway, gazing across the fields where cassava plants and rows of corn swayed gently in the breeze. The world seemed ordinary, yet inside her, everything had changed. The tiny life she carried made every sunrise brighter, every step heavier with meaning. She busied herself with small chores, sweeping the courtyard, feeding the chickens, and gathering greens for the pigs. Normally, she would have lifted heavy buckets, but today, she moved more carefully, cautious with each motion. She touched her abdomen absent-mindedly, a secret smile tugging at her lips. No one else knew, not even Alex, who had left early for a meeting in town. She wanted to tell him in her own way, when the time felt right, perhaps with a meal prepared or under the shade of the old mango tree where they often talked about the future. By mid-morning, she decided to walk down to the village market again, not to sell, but to observe. She wanted to study how other mothers managed with young children, how they balanced work and care. Her eyes lingered on a woman who tied her baby securely on her back while bargaining for fish. Another carried a toddler on her hip while skillfully arranging vegetables on her stall. Their strength inspired Tuna, yet also stirred unease. Would she be strong enough to manage both the farm and a baby? She bought a small bundle of herbs, not because she needed them, but because she wanted an excuse to stay longer. The chatter of the market wrapped around her like a living song. Laughter, bargaining, gossip. She realized with quiet awe that soon she too would join the circle of mothers, trading not only goods, but advice and stories. Walking back, she passed the village school, where children played during recess. Their voices rang out, shrill and joyous, as they chased one another across the dusty yard. Tuna paused, her hand pressed against the fence, imagining her own child among them. Would it be a boy, with Alex's serious eyes, or a girl with her own gentle smile? The thought made her heart leap, filling her with both excitement and longing. When she returned home, Alex was already back, his motorbike leaning under the shade. He was inside, seated at the wooden table, spreading out papers and receipts. His brow furrowed in concentration, but when he looked up and saw her, his face softened instantly. "You've been out?" he asked. "Just the market," she replied, placing the herbs on the counter. She hesitated, wanting to add more, to tell him everything, but the words caught in her throat. Alex stood and stretched, walking toward her with an easy smile. "Good. I was thinking, after the wedding, we'll start planning the new house. Something bigger, with more space. Maybe a separate room for—" He stopped, as though catching himself, then chuckled. "Well, for guests, or whatever the future brings." Tuna's chest tightened at his words. He was unknowingly speaking of the very future she carried within her. She wanted to laugh, to cry, to tell him outright. Instead, she smiled softly, tucking the secret away a little longer. That afternoon, the two of them walked the boundary of the farm. The land stretched wide, damp earth, rich with promise. Alex spoke about irrigation channels, about adding a new section for beans, about building a proper fence to keep the animals out. His voice was steady, filled with plans and calculations. Tuna listened, her mind half on his words, half on the small flutter of life inside her. Each step she took beside him made her long to share the truth. Yet she kept silent, savoring the sweetness of anticipation. As the sun lowered, painting the horizon in gold and pink, they sat together under the mango tree. The branches arched above them, a canopy of green whispering in the evening wind. Alex leaned back against the trunk, stretching his long legs, while Tuna rested beside him, her basket at her feet. "You've seemed thoughtful lately," Alex remarked gently. "Is something worrying you?" She froze, startled by his intuition. She wanted to answer honestly, to tell him everything, but instead, she shook her head with a small laugh. "Just tired from the market, that's all." Alex studied her for a moment, then nodded, accepting her words, but his hand reached over, covering hers with quiet warmth. "Whatever it is, you don't have to carry it alone." His touch sent a wave of reassurance through her, and for a fleeting moment, she almost broke her silence. But no, the moment wasn't ready yet. She wanted to choose the perfect time, not blur it out in exhaustion, so she leaned closer, letting his comfort be enough for now. That night, after dinner, Tuna washed the dishes slowly, her thoughts swirling like the soap bubbles on the surface of the water. From the living room, Alex's voice carried as he spoke on the phone, arranging details for the upcoming wedding. The word "wedding" echoed in her ears, mingling with the word she had been whispering silently all day: baby. Soon, the two would become inseparable. Marriage and parenthood, the foundation of their new life. She dried her hands and stepped outside. The night sky stretched vast and brilliant above, the stars glimmering like scattered seeds across dark soil. The farm was quiet, except for the low hum of crickets and the occasional bark of a distant dog. She wrapped her shawl around her shoulders, cradling her belly beneath its folds. "I'll tell him soon," she whispered into the night. "When the moment is right, I'll tell him everything." The next morning dawned clear, the air crisp with promise. Alex suggested they visit his sister in the neighboring town. Tuna agreed, though nerves fluttered in her chest. His sister had always been protective of him, cautious about Tuna's place in his life. Still, Tuna hoped that with the wedding so close, acceptance would finally come. They traveled together on Alex's motorbike, the wind tugging at Tuna's hair, the road winding between fields of rice and banana groves. At his sister's house, they were welcomed with tea and small cakes. The conversation drifted from the wedding arrangements to farm matters, light but tinged with old hesitations. Tuna sat quietly, sipping her tea, one hand resting over her lap. She wondered if Alex's sister would notice the subtle changes in her, the glow she tried to conceal. But no questions were asked, and she remained silent, her secret safe. Later, as they rode back home, Tuna leaned her cheek against Alex's back, her eyes closing against the rush of wind. She thought of the life growing within her, the life that would soon make itself known whether she spoke or not. The thought both frightened and thrilled her. Back at the farm, she set her basket on the table, watching Alex as he carefully removed tools from the motorbike. His shirt clung to him from the heat of the ride, his hair damp with sweat, yet his movements were patient and steady. He glanced at her, catching her gaze, and smiled. In that simple moment, Tuna knew she had made the right choice. She would wait for the perfect time, but when it came, Alex would understand. His love had already proven itself in countless small ways. Through his patience, his care, his plans for their shared future. The day closed with the sound of frogs croaking from the paddies and the scent of wet soil drifting through the air. Tuna lay in bed, her hand resting over her stomach, her mind replaying the events of the past days. Life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet imagine, but she was no longer afraid. Her secret was still hers alone, but soon it would be theirs. And when that day came, it would not only change their wedding plans, but transform their entire world into something far richer, far more meaningful than either of them had yet dared to dream.